Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Did you know you can make your own reusable floss drops? Let's learn how. All right, so why is it cool to make your own reusable floss drops? Well, if you're a serial kidder like me, it's just nice to be able to organize all of your floss, putting the symbol and the color and the maker all onto these tags. And what's great is that they're laminated and they're reusable. So you use a regular fine point or ultra fine point Sharpie marker and write on it, let them dry, takes seconds to dry. And then when you're done with the project, you can take an alcohol wipe it clear, and you're set to go for the next project. So more money to buy charts and fabric and floss versus having to buy drops. Your initial investment of a little bit of supplies will last you a really, really long time. All right, so let's talk about the supplies we need for making the floss drops. So making them manually without a Cricut, very, very helpful to have this little craft cutter. Any of these little craft cutters where you can measure the top works great. A small hole punch and a large hole punch. So that's for manually making, and obviously a laminator for both of these ways. Got mine very inexpensively through Amazon. And then I have a Cricut maker. And so I know the Cricut Explorer and the Cricut Maker should be able to do this no problem. And the settings, I will show you how to set up specifically so that you can cut this. But I also show you how to test your machine so that you get successful cuts. So regular standard mat is fine. You can use a heavy duty mat, a heavy stick mat, just a nice fresh mat so it's nice and sticky. I use the squeegee to just push it down onto my mat to make sure it's really stuck, and then a fine point blade, and you'll be all ready to go. So let's go ahead and we're going to start out how we actually make this shape in Cricut Design Space. And then at the end, I'll show you how to do it manually. All right, let's go ahead and get our project set up, and we're going to click New Project here in the Cricut Design Space. We want a blank canvas. Now Access automatically opens, so we can go ahead and close that. We are going to use the Shapes tab, and we're only going to use the free shapes that they have available. So we'll double click on the square, and we also want to click a couple times for circles, and we can go ahead and close that window. We'll drag these off to the side, and because we want to be able to see what we're doing, we'll go ahead and change this color. So you just come up here to the color bar and we'll make it pink. You'll see that all of these shapes are what are called basic cut. There's also all sorts of different fun things that we'll learn about eventually, but right now we're going to just use basic cut. And this is our main floss drop shape, and I need to change that size. So there's two ways I can do it. I can just drag and then reposition. So I want this to actually be 2. And then I want this to be, we'll go 1.5 by 2. And then the circle, I can do the same thing, or I can just come up here to the sizing and do 0.3. And because that lock is locked, that is locking the aspect ratio, and so that's making the height and width the same. So I'll drag that over. And then I want to make the oval shape of where the floss actually goes. So again, I can do this visually by just dragging, or I can put in precise measurements over here. So let's just do this as 1 inch by 0.5, so I can use the arrow keys. And we'll just get rid of that little one. And then I'll put that there. Now that looks a little bit wide to me, so let's go ahead and just make that 1.0. All right, close enough. So we are now going to align everything. I need to move that down just a titch,
mat here,
and then I'll move that over. So you can visually do it, or we can be more precise by selecting all of the shapes and coming up here to align, and then we're going to align centrally. That way I won't have
Now that looks good to me, so we're going to select them all again, and we're going to use the shape
to go ahead and scrape
feature
down
so
here
that it's
in
nicely
sticking to the mat.
menu. And we want to use subtract for this. And that cuts the holes for our floss drop. So we've now made our wonderful first floss drop. Now we're going to lay them out so that it fits an 8.5 by 11 piece of laminated cardstock. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to hold Alt for Windows or Option on your Mac, and we're going to just power duplicate a bunch of these. And I don't want to go more than 8.5 by 11, so I'm actually going to go a little bit shy. But you see how they're overlaying each other? We can fix that with the align function. So I'm going to select everything with my mouse, click align. I'm going to align the top, go back into align, and we're going to distribute horizontally. So now they're nicely evenly spaced. I want to keep them as a group so I can power duplicate and make the whole 11-inch sheet. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to select group. And then again, I'm going to hold Alt or Option, and I'm going to power duplicate so that we can fit our entire sheet of 8.5 by 11. And that's about all we can fit, and that looks really good. Again, if you want to be super precise, you can select all of your groups, come back up here to align, and then distribute vertically. All right, so now we've made our whole sheet, everything's selected, and we want to tell Cricut that this all stays together. So we're going to click attach. So now we are ready to go ahead and cut them on the Cricut. All right, so my laminator I got from Walmart, and I know it was very inexpensive. You can get them also through Amazon, and I love to laminate stuff, so it was a worthy investment for me. You can get also the 65-pound cardstock and the 3mm also inexpensively through Amazon. All right, once we've gotten that all laminated, we're going to go ahead and lay it down on our sticky mat. Again, make sure it's sticky and use something like a squeegee to lay it down. And then the machine, we just go ahead and get it loaded, and we tell Cricut, we've already told Cricut that we're going to cut. So then we go ahead and make sure we use the arrow buttons to load it in. And once it's ready to go, we hit the C button. I'm sorry, the play button. Used to be a C button. It's a play button now, and it will play. Once it's all done cutting, we take it out, and now we're going to go ahead and unload it from our mat. Flip your mat over so it's reversed. That way you're not bending your material. And it popped off super nicely, and we've got all sorts of drops. I was able to get 25 drops on just this one sheet. And let's go ahead and clean these off and be ready to go to the next step. All right, so before we actually take our laminated cardstock, I recommend that you actually do a little bit of testing to see what size you like. I finally ended up with a 2x3, so a little bit bigger than I did on the Cricut, but that I think looked good with that big of hole punch. And so test it out. And I didn't center it there, so obviously I'd want to fix that on my next run. But take your cardstock, and I'm going to do it the lengthwise, and then I'm going to cut 2 inches, and then I'm going to cut the 3-inch. So I should be able to get 3 out of this. So I should be able to get 12 drops out of one laminated piece of cardstock. So I would go through, make all my cuts, and then use my hole punches. So again, test it. Now I'll show you with my laminated cardstock. Let me grab that. All right, so, okay, so we've got our laminated cardstock. Now, if you've got laminated edges, go ahead and trim those off so we know we've got a true 8.5 by 11. So I've got an end here that's got that laminate, so I'm just gonna go ahead and trim that. And that cut it no problem. And then again, we're just gonna cut. So I'm gonna do 2-inch widths. Oh, I'm gonna lose my blade. I lost my blade.
cut these, you'll get 3 of the full ones, and you'll also have a partial one. But this is nice. You can totally use this as the front of your project, so you can put the name of the project at the start of your floss, and then the date you started and all that good info. So you would just take your hole punch, and again, I'm eyeballing it. I didn't do a very good job on the last one, but I want to make sure I'm in the middle and go down a little bit. And then, so that can be the first part. So keep these, those are really good, don't waste those. And then we would hole punch these. So my hole punch, I go in all the way. Again, you'd want to test this with your hole punch. So I go all the way, and I want to make sure I'm centered. And then punch. Looks good. So I'd go through, do all the big ones, and then come back, go in the middle, make sure I'm lined up. I'm in the middle, boom. So you'd go through and you make all these, and again, you're ready to go. I was going to show you with a Sharpie marker. Okay, let me show you with the Sharpie marker. I want to make sure you're in frame. You should be in frame right here. Okay, so we've got our laminated ones, and here's my Sharpie marker, or just an off-brand one that I get through Amazon. Same thing as a Sharpie. And then you would just write DMC 310 with the symbol. And then you're gonna just let that dry for a few seconds. Set that to the side, and then what's great is you can take your alcohol you can get these in the pharmacy section at Walmart. And then once you're done with your project, you can erase them. They come right off. And then just let it dry before you add more info for your new project. All right, that's how you do it manually. Thank you so much for hanging with me during this tutorial on how to make your own reusable floss drops. Little bonus, because you stayed till now, I'm going to give away a set of 25 of these to three viewers. Go ahead and put a comment below using the words reusable floss drops. That way I will pick a winner. Today is February 2nd. And so I will give you guys until the 10th to go ahead and put your comment below. And then I will select and comment on your comment, the winners. And I'll also announce them in my next floss tube update. So my next update is actually going to be a quilty update. And that's going to be just here in a few days. And then next week I'll be doing I think I'll shoot it on my birthday. I'll do a floss tube on my birthday, the 12th. All right, so we'll see you then, and thanks again for watching.